Should billionaires be in the government of any country, running and controlling operations? The answer is no. Quite clearly, a billionaire has a major financial advantage over any other person in a society. And when we see this advantage impose itself on the institutions and organizations of an economy, of a country, or a sovereign entity, it naturally skewers the direction of operations towards that billionaire. Let's use America as an example. Obviously, their president is already a billionaire, a very corrupted, unethical individual anyway. But when you have this obvious source of power influencing things, you direct things towards their interest. So a billionaire like Trump, like his close associate and de facto leader, basically Elon Musk, is naturally going to operate in the interest of their finances, of their power. We see this through the decisions they take, so to gut regulations, to sell off federal land for private interest, i.e. their interest, to gut the power of authorities within the state to check and regulate the activities of the financially wealthy. And all of this allows them to accrue more capital, to make greater profits, to extend their power as a capitalist in the government and society that organises them. And this is a big problem because when you are the average person, like myself, like any ordinary person going about their lives without £1 billion or dollars, you are basically silenced. You don't have the necessary components to have an equal footing and a genuine voice in a democracy. Because when these billionaires act as they have done in America, not just America, but many countries, they essentially control society. They essentially allow themselves the financial muscle to outweigh any other decision. There's no popular support for many of the actions Trump's government is taking. There wasn't anyway, even with their contorted bad election win. But what we're seeing is the genuine sentiment of people who, above and beyond, essentially just want to live affordable lives, to get by in society. We're seeing their lives made much worse when the current plans of the American cabinet to disband various regulatory bodies, to end state control of education and public land and transportation, all the sort of things which already were under quite a lot of stress thanks to the failure of free market policies, but want to be pushed even further into a right-wing vision of society where anything and everything is up to market forces, and where any capitalism has the freedom to impose their own profitable ideas onto various institutions. We're seeing that direction being pushed, and the consequence is quite tragic. It's going to be quite devastating. I was speaking to someone the other day. I was in a conversation with someone who had selected a bald eagle, a symbol of America, to be their profile picture. And they're telling me how great Trump's going to be and how they're so glad that society's going to be more efficient. And what they don't realize is the efficiency that they're talking about is one that doesn't benefit or really take place in the realm of reality. An efficiency that tells you that cutting the jobs of thousands of federal workers, many of whom do jobs that are largely taken for granted and appreciated by, taken for granted in the sense that it's expected to be done, but one that has labour which is valued by people in society. When you take away these jobs, you lose many of the things that constitute the normal workings of society. So this bald eagle using individual, a person who loves the symbol of America, perhaps doesn't realise that by supporting Trump and his billionaires and his very corporate goals, they're going to lose the protected lands and the environmental protections which keep bald eagles and other celebrated animals from being killed off and being evicted basically from their land by some oil pipeline or some development scheme. And it's devastating because obviously when you've got such a discrepancy between the average person's will for society and the general consensus of wanting people to have rights and supports and thing in society to be operated for the benefit of everyone, because ultimately that's what we have, right? That's what we want in society. When you allow billionaires to step in and control things, and to put themselves and their own ideas at the center of things, as a capitalist society allows them to, this will is lost. There's been no consultation on whether or not people want land sold off, whether we want the education system to be essentially deconstructed and disbanded more so than it already has. It just happens because a system set up by people who are wealthy and people who are at the top of society is naturally going to benefit them. Mr. Musk quite likes the idea of being the top dog, top of the pile, and to do so, he uses his money, his vast fortune, to influence government. Well, not even just influence, to be in government and run around acting as though he is Pharaoh. And if we want to stop and halt this direction for society, if we want to have a society where democracy isn't just some concept gestured at, but a genuine lived thing we all live in, we're going to have to really address the way the free market has wrapped itself into our lives. We can't have elections that a billionaire can basically operate for their own means. You look at how Musk used his purchase of a popular social media site, Twitter, to turn it into basically a far-right rag, turn it into Trump.com, get rid of many of the accounts that critiqued stuff going on in right-wing circles, heavily boost the accounts and influence of right-wing accounts, so that when you log into the site, you're naturally inundated with propaganda and lies and just blatant election rigging by some of these people. And I don't mean that through hyperbole or metaphor. Quite literally, Musk was using his money to influence electoral matters in many of the states that were deemed key to the election. Not just that, the way that the billionaire class, the corporate institutions within the country, use their wealth to push false statements about the election. The idea that there's mass fraud going on, which Musk then boosts on his site, which then leads to various state legislators chucking millions, literally millions, of voters off the voting lists prior to the election, with no time to reverse or correct it. Every element of democracy that billionaires have contact with, which in a free market society is any part of the society, any part of the election, is going to be something that is at risk. And so until we can address the way the free market proliferates itself into our society, which ultimately means critiquing, deconstructing our capitalist infrastructure, we're going to be stuck in these circles and these patterns of anti-democratic measures for quite a long time. In terms of what we should do right in this moment, in the now, we need to identify and put pressure in all forms on people like Musk and Trump and all the wealthy, moneyed individuals essentially operating as the de facto government of various states. The further we push things left and away from the right and away from their preferred mechanisms of society, the closer we can come to a genuine democracy where people can have an actual say in their lives and society can be operated for everyone, not just the behest and the ideas of billionaires.